and welcome to the Benchwarmers podcast. We're here for episode 3 of our second season. It is episode 3, I think. I don't know how we've managed to get this far. We've got the usual gang: Gareth, Nick, Lennon with us. I nearly forgot Lennon's name. That would have been a good start after last weekend's calling in Lemon. This week's a little bit different to usual. I say this week. This particular episode, we've got a special guest. Tom Wiles, our Vice Chairman's joining us, so thanks for coming, Tom.
No worries, guys.
Good evening,
Tom. Good evening, all.
In this particular episode, we'll ask Tom a few different questions about, obviously, the calls and what goes on behind the scenes, and obviously what the plans are going forward. First of all, any stories to tell? Anyone got anything that they've missed over the last?
I think there's stories to be told, but let's get Tom's part done first. He's a busy man. He didn't want to be tied down with us all night.
That's fair enough. We'll jump right into it. Tom, first of all, do you want to give us a bit of a description of your role and what a vice chairman in non-league football gets up to?
Yes, obviously it depends on the vice chairman, but I would say my role is probably quite strategic, so sort of trying to drive things off the pitch in terms of improvements and making sure that we keep growing as a club. On and off the pitch, I think that would be fair to say.
In terms of the impact that you would like to have and that you would have obviously when you first started coming, it's probably not that long ago in a time scale compared to most non-league football chairmen these days.
Yeah, I think just about 6 years.
Yeah.
So was it when you first come down? Was it just a case of like most people get involved at clubs at this level? It was you young started playing down there.
Sort of. So obviously I'm from Pontney, and obviously I have been down and followed them when I was a kid and bits and bats. But first time it was me and our Andy actually. We came down. We brought our lads down. We've got 7 lads between us. 5 of them were old enough to go to football. Priced up leads, ridiculous for all 7 of us. So I just watched a Salford documentary actually, if you remember that, a few moons ago, and the Coles were playing Tadcaster in the FA Cup.
Oh, my first game too.
Yeah, was it?
See, there we go.
Very good.
Something in common.
There we go.
That means you're going to be vice chairman next.
And so we just obviously decided to bring them down. I was a teacher in York at the time, and I knew quite a lot of the Taddy lads when they're being released by York. A lot of them tend to end up at Tadcaster. So we came down, and me and my brother had a couple of pints, and the kids could run around, and we just thought, this is brilliant, spot on. And then obviously the next stage is you meet Trev. Yeah. He finds out that you're a teacher and a qualified coach, which probably I've mentioned after a couple of beers. And then, and that was it. So, I think I turned him down a few times, but then in the end, me and my brother decided to set up the juniors coming through, so the 6s and 7s, and then obviously the rest is history.
Indeed. During that time, quite a lot of different things have happened. We've obviously had the coronavirus. Mm-hmm. We've had promotions. How many promotions do we have since you joined? Is it from the bottom? Yeah, so from Northern Counties Division 1. Mm-hmm. During that time, obviously, it's probably arguably the most successful period in the club's history. We've had an FA Cup run that's seen the biggest attendance for a competitive game at the ground. In terms of how things have changed, how pleased have you been with that, and what would you say has probably been the most proud moment?
The proudest moment's easy for me. It was seeing all the juniors on the pitch for the Halifax match. Obviously, all with the flags. There was loads of them on there. And I think it made a bit of a statement, and I know it was mentioned by the Halifax manager at the time. And it sort of really brought across what a community club we were. In terms of obviously improvements, I just think it's about leaving it better than you found it. I would say over the time I've been here, the amount of people that have got involved, good people giving up the time. And listen, you all know volunteering's tough. When you've got like me, a business and a young family, it can be tough at times, but there is nothing better than that goal smashing the back of the net on a Saturday as a bit of a release to all of it.
I think one of the big things that stands out to me since you've come in, or somebody who was here slightly before you, is the change in the junior section. I mean, as you all know, I'm the junior secretary down here anyway, and I do the registrations for the league and things. When going back 10 years, I were entering maybe 4 or 5 teams into different leagues. And
you had a much easier job.
Now, I mean, I'm really looking at now, Tom.
So in total, we've got 53 teams. Obviously, that's made up of all the different teams, including the Pirates, the ladies. So our Sunday team, obviously the first team. But the vast majority, obviously, are juniors. So, I sort of oversee the grassroots side of it. And, the motto is football for all. And it truly is, we have kids and teams of all different development levels playing football and enjoying it in what we think is, on the whole, and obviously mistakes are made at times, but on the whole, I think one of the most positive atmospheres that children can play football in, which is everything that we wanted to create, and just getting as many kids involved in football as possible.
I mean, it shows from my point of view how the club's grown as well. Is obviously I work in Castleford, live in Ferrybridge, and I will see Ponty College tops because they stand out to me now whenever I see them. And I'm seeing Ponty College tops in Castleford, I'm seeing them in Ferrybridge, and that's not something that I've ever really seen before.
I was just going to say a very similar thing. I know when I first started coming down, Jake were playing for under-7s at that time, and it was very rare that you saw any Ponty College badges anywhere. I was walking through town with Emma the other day, and there were 2 different groups of people, one being kids and one being adults, saying, "Oh, Ponty Coles, have you been down today?" And that was something that, when we first started coming down, I don't even think that badge was recognised from people within its own town. So, yeah, that growth has been massive, and it's testament to yourselves. Well done.
Well, yeah, thanks. But I think it's everyone, to be fair. I think, obviously, you're only as... as an organisation, you're only as good as the people who volunteer, help out, and the volunteers that we've got, the coaches, the staff on the education programme, not just the volunteers, but those as well. Everyone's sort of pulling in the right direction to grow the club on and off the pitch. And I would say, actually, in terms of teams numbers, we've reached saturation point, really, in terms of facilities in the area and what we can host down here. But obviously, I think that will probably come later.
Indeed. Obviously, in terms of on and off the field, as you mentioned, this summer's been one where it's probably been a sign of how far we've come as a club, where we've seen what has been discussed as some undisclosed transfers, but we've also seen a player that's moved on to the Football League. Now, I don't think there's ever been a point where we've, certainly not in the recent history, there probably will have been as time's gone by, where a player's gone and moved from our step of football and gone into a Football League side in Jack Shepherd. How important is it that, obviously, there is that kind of stepping stone into Football League for young lads that do find their way at Ponty?
Yeah, I think it's massive, and I think a lot of that is down to Craig, the manager, and the management team, and how they've wanted to develop young players as well. Obviously, he wants experienced players in there as well, and he need them at this level. There's no doubt about that. But I think we've probably not through us or any direction from the committee or anything like that. We've just sort of maybe come across a model that sort of Craig's really led on in terms of getting in young players with potential, and so he's brought them on, and the management team have brought them on in terms of their coaching, And then to see someone like Jack, who's great lad from a great family, go on and achieve the levels that he has, and we believe will go on to do, then it's just superb. I think he's spoken about himself to go from, I believe he was a kitchen fitter to a full-time professional football is,
from Fonty to Barnsley. It's not a bad step.
Yeah, absolutely.
In terms of football,
in
terms of anything else.
We're talking about town centres now.
The rest of it's not very much, is it?
Kind of a final bit as we kind of get towards the end of this little bit of a section. Obviously, there's so much that goes on the pitch. There's a wide variety of different stuff that we do off the field, from, you mentioned the scholars, the educational side of things, the food hub, which these guys ran the Manchester Marathon to raise money for last year. There's a lot of stuff that people don't know about. How important is it that the club continues to do these kinds of activities, to keep putting stuff on for the community, and what are kind of the plans for the future?
Yeah, it's massive, and lads, thank you again for what you did.
Enjoyed it.
Yeah.
All of it. All 26.
Without any footage,
miles
some gritted teeth.
Even the last 10 miles. Yeah. No, superb. Listen, it's about hopefully leaving, the football club better than we found it, and hopefully doing something positive for the local community. I'm a Ponty lad. I would say when my grandparents, when I was younger, my grandparents were massively sort of into the church and volunteering there and sort of making that community better. So it's something that really stuck with me. And I'm not going to lie, I'm not a churchgoer, but it's something where if you can make an impact on people's lives and hopefully help them out, then there's nothing better than you can really do with your spare time, is there? And that goes from giving a kid confidence to play football up to being able to feed a family who are struggling, because in all honesty, and especially in a cost of living crisis, could happen to any of us. So yeah, I think that's massive. And then in terms of future projects, they're all sort of linked in together. To give you a bit of an update on the 3G pitch, we have a viable project, so there are enough teams in Pontefract and Nottingham now to warrant a third 3G pitch. You need 38. The fact that we have 53 obviously suggests that we would be a great place. Yeah,
that demands there.
Yeah, and we would be a great place to host that. So we have a viable project. What we're working on at the moment is working with the Duchy, who's our landowner, in terms of extending the lease. I think the initial conversations on that have been really positive. I put together an email that I've sent to them in terms of for the guy, our contact, who's a really nice guy called Mark, to take to the decision makers as such and just show them what we are doing. And it's more than just a football club, and it isn't just about the first team having a better pitch to play on or anything like that. It's about the whole club having a better pitch to play on in terms of the multi-sports that we do. We've done multi-sports for kids with special educational needs, adults with special educational needs, kids with who may be at risk of antisocial behaviour. Just the whole shooting match and basically making sure that everyone's got a better surface to play on. So that's something that we're working towards. I know the local councillors have met today or tonight to discuss as a 100k contribution, 106 contribution from Haworths. That's for improving pitches. I think on there's a stipulation that I'm not sure if it's grass but we're not named in it. We thought we were, but we're not. So they're discussing that to see if that can be put towards the 3G project. So yeah, that's there's good progress there. Like any of these sort of it's £1 million worth of investment, so it takes a lot of work, as you can imagine. And then sort of for more the community side of the overall, obviously we're still working or hoping to work with the Duchy again through Haworths and a 106 contribution on a community centre that we could use on match days, whether that be for an improved clubhouse or however we saw fit. I think the Skinner Lane end, they're still trying to ascertain whether that land is valuable for future development. At the end of the day, it's their land, and they might want to use that for future development, whether that be housing or whatever. So they're still looking into some traffic surveys on that. But if we can, obviously we all know what it's like behind there. It's just a wasteland. It's a dumping zone.
Nothing's been done with it for probably 15, 20 years, arguably.
At least.
Yeah.
Decades. But if we could get that building there, or whether we can, then obviously we hope to be able to do the next project alongside it. The next project will be a horticultural centre. So I think most people know that me and Trev run an education business where we work with kids who struggle with mainstream. The idea is to give them another skill. So we do construction engineering. So something along the lines of horticulture in terms of growing their own food. And what we would want to do with that is like a bit of a generation, bridge the gap in terms of perhaps people from like an older generation who may be semi-retired getting involved and sort of better understanding across the generations.
Me and Nick Garden, it sounded.
Yeah, exactly.
Planting spuds, love to see it.
I think there's plenty of horticulture in Pontefract. It just might not be for food stuff.
But yeah, listen, loads of different ideas. It's like anything. I said to you before we started, the biggest thing that I've learned since being vice chairman is patience, I think. And I'm not really someone who's famed for his patience, so I'm like a bull in a china shop. But you have to be patient because you're working with lots of different stakeholders, and you have to try and understand where everyone's coming from, and hopefully that understanding and that being, I like to feel I have a skill set that I can work with different types of people from different backgrounds. Hopefully that'll help us move the projects in the right direction.
One final piece, we've got a couple of questions that have been sent in.
Yeah.
Obviously, we discussed on the podcast kind of in the weeks prior to this that if anyone had any questions to send in, and we can obviously ask those. So we got a couple here in terms of, you've touched on priorities in terms of investment, any potential ground improvements, and then this one kind of links in together. So when you kind of go around to away grounds, is there any that you've seen that you particularly liked, and that you've seen ideas that you'd like to see our ground kind of incorporate? Anything like that you think in terms of ground improvements?
I didn't go to Belper, but I'll ask you what's it like, because I can imagine that being quite a tradition. I like traditional grounds myself. I do like traditional grounds.
So not these big green fences around a brand new 4G pitch.
On the sports field.
Yeah, well, listen, we're not making any bones about it. We would like our own 3G pitch because it would revolutionise the whole club. And, when you run a club or you're in charge of a club,
it makes too much sense.
Yeah, it makes too much sense. And you've got to think about everyone. It's not just about the first team. It has to be about improving it for everyone. So, but I do like traditional grounds.
Belper was traditional and they were really nice. Yeah, I really liked it.
I think one of the best we've been to in the last few years would arguably be Hebbons. I think what they've got with their clubhouse, they've got obviously the facilities next to it, which has got the playing fields for juniors. They've got the bit at the top, which I think it's like a red grass if it's not a smaller AstroTurf.
No,
obviously their clubhouse is...
The only thing I thought about that is, and it's nothing they can do about it, it's very open.
Yeah.
So, and we did go on a Tuesday night and it was freezing, and we did do them like 1-0 in the last minute, I remember.
Yeah, there's no wrong with that.
But yeah, I just remember it being very open. It didn't seem to generate much of an atmosphere, but that might well have been the evening.
It's like Tom said, though, I don't think Belper's ground takes on beating. It's everything about it. It's like you get into town and town feels old-fashioned in a little bit.
Yeah, it was traditional ground, but very modern at the same time. Yeah, good. Like
made ground feel better.
Yeah, it did when they all left really early.
Very early.
I'm trying to think of others that stand out, but obviously when you go into the boardrooms or go into hospitality, it's always nice just to get a feel for people and what they're doing and good things that they're doing. What I would say is
We've done quite a lot, though, if you look at it on the last 3 years.
Yeah, but people are kind and they will help you out. So, we played Stockton recently, and their chairman said, look, if you're looking at a 3G pitch, let us know if you want any help. They've been through the same process. So there's a lot of kind people out there in non-league football who will help you, and want to see all the clubs at this level sort of, improve, because it can only be better for the game, can't it? And then there's one or two who aren't. But,
Final bit, obviously, I've just touched on there about the ground improvements. We've had this new building that we're in right now built, and we're not far off it being fully completed, barring a couple of finishing touches to the kitchen.
Yeah.
We've got the new shed end, which has obviously gone up not too long ago. We've had the improvements that have obviously gone on in terms of the main stand roof. In terms of the next steps, what are the planned next steps?
Yeah, so the next steps are, we've still got some Premier League Stadium Fund. I don't think that's what it's called, but it's along those lines. We still have some money to go at. So in terms of, when you look at the main stand, obviously you've got almost brand new versus very old. I think obviously the bit to the right is massively a priority, and from that sorting out the whole roof, because you've got a mishmash. If you set the drone up, it's quite scary, because you've got a mismatch of roofs where I'm no engineer, but where the metal sort of go, we're getting a lot of leaks and stuff like that. So I think the idea is to take that all the way across, hopefully get some windows in the classrooms for the scholars, because if you want to play football, there's nothing better than looking out over, than being able to look over a pitch, unless there's a game on and you want them to concentrate. And sorting the roof out, I think that's next priority in terms of where we'll go next.
I know these guys are going to say it, so I'm going to jump in before they do. Steps in the shed. Yeah. Obviously, it's an end goal in terms of being able to get as many people in that end, and it helps. Obviously, the first team. I think Saturday was the first team that we were forced to attack that in the first half.
No, it was the last home game it happened as well. Sure, it did.
Stockton.
Yeah,
Stockton.
They turned us around.
But it shows that's something that other clubs have noticed.
Yeah, listen, the noise that made. I actually said to someone when I was walking past and we were talking about the atmosphere in there and the noise it generates. And I said to him, we actually had it tested like acoustically. I don't even know if that's the right word. And he was like, are you joking? And I was like, yeah, I am. But just by chance, like the noise it generates is superb. So yeah, I mean, I think down the line, yes. Are there more pressing things? I would say yes. It's not an endless pot, as you guys know. We're very much, I'm not going to lie to you, I think everyone knows we're a hand-to-mouth club. So, yeah.
Priorities come first.
Yeah, I mean, once it starts getting too deep, then you have to start to look at it 100%. But it's all it all sort of opportunity knocks. It's one of those things when you
get a sponsor from a building company that wants to supply a load of cement and some.
But we have loads of different people involved who are linked to the building trade, and someone might say, "Look, I have this concrete."
We've got some metal steps that might work as a solution.
So, like we've discussed that, it might be something that a project that we get the kids on with. So, like the kids are actually doing the kitchen behind you. So,
when you say kids, can you just quantify that? It's not under sevens who fit at that kitchen, is it?
No, so they're all high school kids who want to go into the trade. So we work with kids who struggle with mainstream education in terms of, I would say, the academia demands. So again, it's all open for discussion. Really, next committee meeting, we'll sort of have a look at where we're at and what's next, really. But just constantly keep improving. And I think that's something that I've noticed since we've been at this level. When the Northern Premier League, no offence to them, when they first used to turn up, they used to be a bit like, oh my God. But I think now, every time they come, or anyone from, as a representative, yes, there's still work to be done, we know that. But every time people come, or people from different away teams, they say, oh, you've improved that's looking better. And, long may that continue, because you go to some grounds and they don't seem to change, which is absolutely fine. But again, football for all, leave it better than we found it.
I've got to agree with what you've said there. Some away grounds that we've been to recently, can't think of any in particular, but I'm noticing more and more, instead of walking through the gates and going, wow, this is good, this is so much better than ours, I'm now walking in and thinking, well, ours is better than that. So,
yeah. I think everybody apart from Brighouse at the minute.
Good old Gareth. He always likes to stick one on his list.
I don't care. I'm the bald one.
Well, you're not far away.
I will be when we go there. Full wig on.
But yeah, we've come to the end of your little segment, Tom. I know obviously you're a busy man and you're off to do some more club roles. So we'll not keep you too long.
Brilliant.
But thanks for coming.
No, thank you. I've enjoyed it. It's been good.
Well,
I've enjoyed it.
We'll have to arrange part 2 at some point towards the end of the season and see where we're at.
6-year anniversary, something like that.
But no, brilliant. Thanks for coming on
for the promotion party podcast.
Yeah. All right, thanks a lot.
Cheers, Tom.
Thanks, Tom. Thank you. See you later.
As we discussed, obviously, it's to be able to get Tom onto these particular podcasts. It's a good thing for us, obviously, to be able to bring supporters kind of news of what's going on and where we're at. And it's something that definitely, I think, is going to be good for fans to be able to get that insight. And obviously, everyone likes new news. So
yeah, as good as it is to listen to us talk crap every week, it's nice to actually get some proper insight into
every week.
It feels like every week to get some proper insight into the club and to see where it's going, and hopefully
size of that junior section, our amount of teams we've got. I know we've got a large junior section, but
I think 53.
It's ridiculous. And like I say, I wouldn't have took the junior secretary job on. I used to
You've been lumbered with it.
I used to register 4 teams, and one of them were my own. And now it's like constantly. It's like every year there's loads that I'm getting introduced to.
We've got 7 under 8s.
Yeah, but it is like that, and it's like I'm getting managers saying, we're under 7 stripes and we're under 7 maroons, and it's like it's endless.
Jake were playing at Basel Celtic on Sunday, and the Recalls team playing there as well. It seems everywhere we go, but
can't avoid them. They're everywhere.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, we're going to kind of go back onto our usual format where the gutter part of the podcast. So we're going to look at obviously the last run of games since our podcast and see if we can remember some predictions of the game that we had last.
You did ask if anybody had been doing anything, and that bit got cut off, didn't it?
Did I?
At the beginning.
All right. Well, what we've been doing?
What about me, Major Rounders, son? When?
Sorry. Sorry. When you said major, you lost me. Yeah.
Don't ruin it though, remember, because a lot of people will Sky Plus to this, so they won't see the final yet.
Go on, tell us about your big event.
Captained my work team's Rounders team to, I don't know what word is.
Glory.
Victory.
Glory, yeah. We're trying to think of something. Corporate glory.
I mean, you may have even been wearing some Coles colours, I think, if I'm right in thinking.
I had a Coles tracksuit top on when
there
I was...
That's another bit of silverware then. We'll claim that.
Yeah, make sure it goes down on the honours list.
Yep, we'll take that one after, unfortunately, not reclaiming the Bill Cup trophy.
At my work, we upstairs for some reason, and this is very off topic, in our trophy cabinet, we have a tug of war winners from 1982.
And who were that against?
I don't know. It might have been,
just against yourselves?
We might have been pulling each other, I don't know.
Well, that's for another podcast.
But I wasn't involved.
Fantastic. Anything at all? We do have something else. Nick's been training pretty hard over the. Yeah, he's on to he's almost there.
Tapering now.
He's tapering down. He's ready to go. When is it that you run? And remind us where it is that you're running again.
29th of October in Frankfurt. Not for charity, for pleasure.
No way, it's for pleasure.
It's not for any of those things, is it?
Tell us why you wanted to do an October marathon. 1, where your training's in the summer.
Yeah.
And 2, where it's in the middle of football season.
And 3.
Well-
After 6 months, you did a marathon.
Yeah.
So I'd done Manchester Marathon with Gareth and Emma, and
Bullied me into it.
and afterwards I felt like I'd lost my purpose for running, and I just felt like I was just doing a few miles here and there, and I wanted something to aim for. So I'll put something in the calendar. I'd enjoyed doing my marathon plan through the winter months, and thought I'll carry that on. So
In the summer.
So looked for marathons, found Frankfurt, thought, I've always wanted to go to Germany.
Fancy a breakfast?
I don't know why I didn't just go to Germany without a marathon.
Yeah.
And then looked at my training plan and realised, well, I'm going to be training all the way through my annual holidays. I'm going to be training through heat wave in UK, which I obviously didn't know were coming, but that's how it panned out. And it's been the most horrible training stint that I've ever done. And once I've done, I'm having a good few weeks off.
I think you could even push to a couple of months.
Yes.
What is your next event after that? Have you and the good lady wife thought of anything else? Maybe?
Yeah, we're doing Alton Towers half marathon
Yeah,
a couple
cool.
of weeks after that.
Anything in the new year?
Nothing planned, no.
Nothing planned. No good. What's this space? You
Watch
never
this
know.
space.
Charlie, what about you? I must say you lost a phenomenal amount of chub. You're looking very lean.
I weren't expecting to hear the word chub on this episode of the podcast. I may have lost a pound or two here or there.
Is it already for your mid-season holiday?
It is. I don't have many.
Yes, Nick,
I don't
true.
have many. This is just the second of the year. Yes, I will be missing the next 2 games.
Yeah, well, when Tom went, so what did you think of Belper's ground? And looked at Charlie, who was on hold for that one as well.
Yeah, I've missed some good games this year. Belper away, I've got obviously Sheffield away, which is usually one that has plenty of goals and crazy action involved. And
Big
then
shout out to our keeper Lloyd there.
Yeah, I hope he's listening this time and not yawning. But yeah, and then I'm going to miss Liversidge, the Ross McCormack.
He don't play though, does
Yeah,
he?
he's not going to get a game. I don't know how, he's...
So who's doing media?
Well, it's Unique, that's who, and Gareth's on football web pages.
Apparently so, yeah.
He's asked about training, so he's in.
Apparently so.
Come on, let's get on to the next step. Run of games, obviously that we're still unbeaten after the last particular podcast in the league. We travelled up to Concert, the game that had been rearranged after the mayhem earlier in the year.
Safe to say, first thing, that Nick was desperate not to go to this game.
Desperate. And then it all changed.
It all got much better.
And it turned out to be much better than the first time round.
So we had some predictions, and Nick's going to tell you the reason I'm talking about these predictions so much was because I got closest.
Did you?
I had 2-1, and it finished 2-0 to the Coles with goals from...
Go on then. I know.
Go on,
I
I'm
know.
looking at you. I thought you'd
Well,
know
look at me,
this.
so I don't know.
Go on then, tell us.
The first one was a deflected effort from the bench warmer's very own Connor Smiley.
Thank you very much.
And the second one was a penalty from the now former Pontefract Colliery striker, Adam Priestley.
Indeed. Which, before the game, it was third versus fourth as we travelled up to Concert. A team that had beat second in the league, Hebburn, the Friday before that. And we kind of blew them off the park, really, in all honesty. They didn't create too much in the way of clear-cut opportunities. And we had a penalty that the keeper saved in the first half. We had a couple of opportunities where it was 1-0 after Connor's early goal in the second half, where we should have really put the game to bed on the counter. And then obviously Frankie comes on and dances past a couple of players and gets a penalty that's put away for 3 big points on the road.
Yes, so I will make it, ever since this game, I'd always thought, next podcast when we talk about Concert away, I'm going to say, there's not many teams from our league who go up there and win that.
But then there's been 2 bounces.
But seeing as Oshit have gone up there and done it last week, and I'm probably not going to mention
Yeah,
it makes it look less spectacular.
It's really stole our thunder,
Yeah.
that one, hasn't it?
Well, the Belper beat them the week after we did. Obviously, Offset have done it this week. So it's proving to not be the fortress that was once described. Or maybe the weather's just not as bad as what it usually is up in
Smiling
Concert.
up there.
Yeah.
I tell you what I must say about it. A lot of times I'll go to games and I'll come on and I will be doing this later on. I'll be slagging fans off from opposition teams. So concert lot, we got up there, they were rowdy, they were giving us some. We were giving,
someone in particular.
Yeah, well deserved for that haircut, if you ask me. I'm just jealous because he's got hair.
We are talking about Nath, who we hope will be
Yeah,
listening.
whose last name I can't say.
Ewington, which I'm probably wrong as well. But yeah, you got a particular pineapple-based.
Yeah, Jason Lee Pineapple on Your Head based song, but with where the game went, because it were two top teams in division, I thought, that this could be a bit awkward here when we go past them at end, because we were giving them dogs abuse as they were giving us. But they were all...
No, we didn't give them dogs abuse. We ended up turning on Nath, and that was the only dogs abuse that we gave.
When we started singing, you've seen the calls, now fuck off home, that's not us giving them abuse.
And you can shove your drum and bell up your ass.
Feels a little bit abusive, if you ask me. But
Some of those
full credit to their fans while we're talking outside clubhouse while you were doing that mind...
I did have a woman approach us and said that we were thoroughly deserved of the 3 points.
And they were all very, very
complimentary,
saying how much we're looking forward to playing us again down here. So I'll stop banging me on that table for one.
Thank you.
And it was nice of them to do that.
I thought that were a tribute to Concert's drum.
Yeah, the drum.
Dry hot dogs.
Didn't have one.
He didn't get a chance to put his order in.
After everything that was said about Concert's dry hot dogs.
Didn't happen. Well, your son, though, caused all the chaos, didn't he, by deciding to come at the last minute.
And you pulling up in the middle of a main road and getting abused by a driver.
Who's stopping it, mate?
I think you forgot that, hadn't you?
No, I had kind of forgot that.
I just wasn't going to mention it.
I was.
But, yeah, I just thought it were brave. A car with 4 fellas in.
I'm quite soft, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he doesn't know that.
Yeah.
Unless he does know.
Yeah.
But yeah, obviously Concert, 3 points on the board, and it really pushed us up the table. At that point, I think we were top at one point.
And a fantastic car journey home.
Indeed, which is usually the case for away games.
It always helps, doesn't it? Surrounded by groin-warm sweets.
And that's a sentence that's not required.
the groin-warm sweets that they got commented about that we bought from the petrol station that I, for some reason, started to keep in between my legs when I won't share them out to everybody. So a thoroughly enjoyable away trip.
Indeed, which was followed by another away trip. Rather than up north to Concert, this following week was down south to Grantham.
A thoroughly shit away trip, I thought.
I wasn't looking forward to going to Concert, and it was fantastic. I was really looking forward to going to Grantham. We went early. We went so we could watch Leeds v Southampton.
Let us down straight away.
Yep, so that was horrendous. And then...
Chip shop were all right, though.
Chip shop was okay. We had chips for dinner.
We had a reasonable chip shop experience.
Unlike myself.
It wouldn't have been like you. You would have had some lettuce.
And a protein shake.
And then...
It's a game that we should have taken 3 points in, if we're being entirely honest.
Yeah.
We went behind early against the run of play. We deservedly went back ahead thanks to Burnsy and Adam Hoare, who, again, on another afternoon where they'd performed brilliantly well. I just think it was one of those afternoons where you're saying we need another here. We need another just to seal it. And we had a couple of chances. Yeah. I'd argue that we had 3 very good chances in the second half.
I know Daley Thompson's had one that's just whizzed by his head. And if that's gone in, it's game over.
And Louis just missed the far post from a shot as well. You'll notice that Gareth doesn't know anyone's name, so he creates pet names or names that just wind me up. So, so Daly is Bailey and Jockey is Louis.
We thought of Daley Thompson, seeing as we were at the athletics track with the hammer throw and discus area. We thought that Daly had rocked.
And when his warm-up's 400 metres over hurdles.
But yes, it was a disappointing game to not take all 3 points. But if beforehand you said, well, we've taken 4 points from Concert and Grantham away, you'd probably not turn it down.
And their fans the complete opposite of the Concert fans as well.
See, I'd argue that I'm not going to tar them all with the same brush because a number of them,
I think it was
you'd imagine.
It was just that one guy.
One particular bloke who had clearly had far too many gingerbread sherbets at half time. He kind of made a mockery of himself. with some of the stuff that he was coming out with.
Yeah,
I hope their club took on the report that was passed over.
We're always more than happy to have banter with fans going back and forth, but sometimes there's a line you've got to not cross. And I think
it was crossed maybe 7 times.
He crossed it several times.
Yeah, that would be on the banter to just hostility and provocation. Yeah, I don't think we need to say any more on that.
Well,
indeed.
That's enough of that toss bag, let's move on.
But indeed.
In terms of that game, are you not mentioning the size of their number 9?
Who's sort of been sent off as well.
The fattest player I've seen at this level, certainly this season.
I think it's become a thing, actually. I've noticed on social media, and I noticed after the game, as he was walking off the pitch, he was proudly shouting, "Not bad for a fat lad." Well,
their chant for him is fat, is round, you bounce him on the ground. Did you not hear that when he scored?
No, I didn't.
Because
fair
despite
enough.
him being a very fat lad, he certainly knew where the goal was.
And that's been the case for a while. I think he's been a goal scorer pretty much wherever
and
he's
I
gone.
agree with Lennon. He should have been sent off for his tangling with Elliot Owen. I know Harry Kane got a bit of stick a few seasons ago for running into players who were mid-jump. But not only did he clatter into Elliot while he's mid-air, he almost folded him up at the same time, slammed him on the floor.
And then squared up to Rousey afterwards as well.
And then laid on floor. I'm trying to make it look like it were an accidental collision. But what really annoyed me most after that is that then provoked their fans into giving us a load of stick. But he was then pivotal in their equaliser. He picks the ball up halfway in our half.
I can see it.
Looks over his left shoulder, plays it onto right wing. They whip ball in and make it 2-2.
Indeed.
In injury time.
Yeah, it's not the best time to concede. We'll touch briefly on Steeton, obviously West Riding County Cup. It's one that I think we'd quite enjoy, a little cup run to see how far we can get in this particular competition. So it was a good start, winning 6-2 on the road. Number of players that came in to make starts that probably haven't had as many minutes recently as they would like, and players coming back from injury. So it was a good little run out, players grabbing goals, forwards as usual. It's always a good sign. And then we went into Saturday. Dunstan, another tough game. If you looked at our fixture list, you'd argue that as far as league goes, Belper, Stockton, Concert, Grantham, Dunstan, it's a tough run of games. And we went into that unbeaten. They went into it on the back of 3 straight wins. To come out with it with a draw, without talking about the circumstances you'd have probably taken beforehand, even though it's at home, you want to win your games, you probably wouldn't have grumbled too much. But obviously, conceding in the 92nd minute, then scoring in the 95th with Bailey's home debut, first goal, it was one that I think...
Where do we get these officials from? Honestly, they're dreadful out there.
It must be a lucky bag somewhere. We're not so lucky in what we get. I think that Saturday's game was the example where both teams are left infuriated at the fact that the game has arguably been ruined on a couple of moments. Whilst the game weren't great in its entirety with the conditions, it was windy, it was pretty heavily one-sided was the wind. So you find that in these games, it's a bit scrappy.
It was a tricky pitch as well.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't boggy, but it was certainly slippy. There was a lot.
We're letting Mark hear you say this about his pitch.
Lot of players.
He'll be shouted at you.
It wasn't a boggy pitch. It was just a slippy pitch, wasn't it?
Good save. But yeah, it was one of those where you've got a match official that has given a penalty where...
That nobody, either team, nobody's appealed.
I've looked back at the VO footage and not a single player or member of the dugout has appealed for a penalty for the incident.
Dunstan's Twitter says we've got a penalty, but we don't know why.
And if you might not have seen it, and if not, we'll make sure to post it out so that you can take a look and make a decision for yourself. But there's a ball that's gone towards the box. It's kind of 2 players have jumped for it. Their players jumped towards the box. Burns has gone to meet it himself. He's got there a touch late, but it's a collision. The ref's not signalled an advantage. He's allowed the Dunstan player to have a shot where the ball's bounced down to him. He's sliced it, so it's kind of looped up and away.
It is what I would say
he's taken a few seconds till the ball has landed. The ref seems to have looked around to see if anyone's going to run onto it, and has then decided that after giving the advantage of allowing a player to shoot at goal, that he's going to then go back and award the penalty.
That nobody's appealed for, nobody's asked for, nothing.
But he actually points, after the collision, he points at where the collision was, like he would do if it was a middle of the pitch foul. And then he's waited to see ball land in McDonald's car park, and then he's blown his whistle and pointed at spot. And how long did we reckon it was afterwards? 7 or 8 seconds?
Yeah, it's around that time in which the players, the first incidents happened. He's then allowed the advantage, and luckily, it's our first penalty save for quite a number of years.
Yeah, we talked about this. I can't remember last penalty kick.
I can't.
No. So, Alex Petrovic, well done. You've got yourself onto a new leaderboard of penalty saves in the last 10 years.
Seemed to slip a lot though, didn't he? I thought
He did, but
it must be in his Buxton moccasins.
It's a new pitch for him. It takes people a while to get used to this Ponty pitch. But no, I think scoring, obviously conceding from a free kick that again was suspect at best.
Well, it wasn't.
Their players backed into Spratty. You can see it on the footage that he's looked over his shoulder to see him coming, and has then dropped like a bag of spuds.
And given it the old
He's had the little squeal on it.
Yeah. So the ref's then fallen for that one, allowed obviously that free kick to come in, which has then been glanced home to give them what looked like all 3 points before. Elliott has managed to prod one past the keeper, and Bailey's poked it in just before the line.
What's his name?
I called him Elliot Owen earlier.
All right.
Elliott Owen, Brett Smith.
It's just whether I actually call him Elliot Owen on Saturday at Sheffield.
That'll be I can't wait to see you post
On
that
your
on
own
your
account.
timeline.
his own Twitter page.
It's all right, Elliot can follow me. He'll never see it.
Next run of games, we've touched on Sheffield and Liversedge because I'm away, and you couldn't wait to mention that. 2 relatively local games there before a trip north, and when I mean north,
very
North Pole-esque. We go to Ashington.
Is that while Nick's away?
While Nick's away, yeah, he's missing
On a
that
holiday.
one, yeah. So we'll be heading up there. Obviously, Sheffield first up, and we'll do our usual. We'll have a little bit of a prediction. Lennon, you want to fire away first? What are you going?
Pressure.
Sheffield away.
2-1 to Ponty.
2-1 Ponty.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm going to say, surely that's a 1-2. Nick?
I'm going to say that we're going to finish the job that we didn't do last season. It's going to be 3-0 to Ponty.
3-0 Ponty.
Well, it's become my traditional prediction, so I'm going to carry on with it, and it's going to be 0-5.
0-5.
Oh, what
Well,
what a time to be alive that'll be. Gareth Bale rocking up in his little Sheffield FC top. You see it on Twitter?
No.
Not Sheffield United or
No, it was
Sheffield
Sheffield
Wednesday.
FC midweek. I thought, you see, I was on Twitter, on Sheffield FC's Twitter page. I thought, me, just have a look. There's Gareth Bale stood there with a Sheffield FC top in his hands. I thought that's just what we need to be rocking.
Their chairman has followed him to done a links to add pictures to,
but thankfully I can confirm Gareth Bale as of Tuesday night has not signed for Sheffield FC.
Well, in that case, I'm going to go for a 1-3 Ponty Calls away victory. So we've got on the chart, Gareth and myself have got a point in the predictions leaderboard. As we step on to the next phase, obviously we've had some particularly decent performances of late with players. Obviously, when you're going on an unbeaten run, you've got a number of players that have caught the eye and that have done really well. I think since the last podcast in particular, there's one lad that stood out.
See, I don't think we should mention him.
For myself.
If it's the way you think it's right, I won't mention any of these players.
Well, I was going to mention Louis Charlton. For anyone that's listening now, they can turn off in a couple of seconds. He's not worth signing, honestly. For those that have just tuned out, as per my instruction, he's very much been a player that's been at the top of most nominations for man of the matches. He got the goal of the month last year for his role in a attacking move against Stockton. He's grabbed himself a couple of goals, a number of assists. He's gained a bit of a partnership with Adam Hoare in that kind of wide role inside.
There's another person I don't want us to mention.
Indeed. But it's players that have really kind of shone for us over that last period, and it shows how important he's been. That he's played pretty much 90 minutes every game since that Stockton game, barring last few minutes on Saturday. He's been a player that's really caught the eye.
Really good, really direct. Knows what he wants.
Everyone likes pace, barring defenders.
Yeah, left backs don't like pace when he's running that. I don't think. Yeah, really good. Delivery of balls, brilliant. Looks a really good player, and he's got to be one of our best signings.
You know me, I like a worker, and not only does he carry the attacking threat, but he will work to get that ball back as well. And I know you mentioned Adam Orr there as well, but between the two of them, what they bring off the ball and when we're out of possession, it's as much as what they do when we've got the ball. Winning the ball back high up the pitch, looking dangerous, looking for that next move. I think that the pair of them are fantastic.
Definitely. So we've come to that point in the podcast where we kind of overview and we review this particular episode. Obviously, we've had a number of discussions ourselves, but obviously we had the special guest at the start with Tom Wiles, our vice chairman, joining us for a little bit of an in-depth look at his role and kind of how he's involved with the club and what he gets up to and kind of the plans for the club. It obviously shows kind of where we're at and where we're looking to go, and a lot of positives, I think, from that particular conversation for the club and for those that will be listening that will be wanting to know kind of where they could potentially see us going over the next couple of years as a club perspective. So I think it's good to have people like Tom on and give you that bit of insight, and we'll hope to try and get a couple of other special guests as we go along this particular season and this talking all things calls kind of format that we've picked up.
One thing he didn't mention, and I've only just thought of it, otherwise I would have asked it, is he didn't really mention what people who might want to get involved with volunteering needed to do to join in. So
indeed, there's always plenty of roles. I can vouch for that in my capacity on the committee.
Which hat are you wearing at the moment? You wear several hats now, yeah, I think.
I'm currently on podcast duty as we speak, so that's the hat I have on today. But there's a number of different roles available. There'll be room for different people to come and help out if they've got any set of skills.
Anybody want to do football web pages for a living? We really appreciate it.
But no, when it comes to any non-league football side, you'll argue that every club will be looking for volunteers. But if there's any particular role that you feel like you could fill, there's always a message. We're always a message away. So feel free to reach out to us on our website. Reach out on social media. Feel free to contact us at the Benchwarmers, and we can put you in contact with the right people depending on what it is that you're wanting to do. Because more people that get involved, the better it is for everyone that comes on a match day for experience-wise, and it'll help the club continue to grow where it has grown from so far. But thanks to those that have tuned in for this particular episode. Obviously, you can tune in to our podcasts on YouTube, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts from. We're usually on most of them. If not, we're on Spotify and YouTube, so find us on there.
So it's probably going to be talking early November before we all gather again and get snip for.
I'm
going on jaunts.
I need to put another holiday request in, unfortunately. I did my last one live as well, didn't I?
Where are you in now?
No, unfortunately, I'm not at the Big House game on 1st of November.
Yeah, we knew about that one. Yeah. We thought you might have wormed out of it.
Yeah, but Ewan will be boxing. That's my youngest son. He'll be boxing. He'll be boxing at Gareth Sports Centre for his Castleford boxing.
Has he got a nickname? And if not, can we give him one on the podcast?
Well, we could throw it open to our listeners to give him Ewan Wayman. What should be his nickname that he has?
After mine got turned down.
Yes, yours certainly did get turned down. But yes, unfortunately, he's boxing at the same time as the Brig House game, so I'll be going there. But the Benchwarmers podcast will be sponsoring him. So even though I'm not at the Calls game, I'll still be on Benchwarmers duty.
On a positive note for you on that though, I'm actually working before the event and then after the Calls match.
Oh, great, you can tell me what's
happened. I will tell you how good it's been.
Yeah, thanks.
But on a positive then, I will give you all the lift on.
Oh, look at
Yeah,
that.
I can break that news to you live.
And what a way to end episode 3 of this particular season of the podcast. So thanks for those that have listened, and we hope you enjoyed this particular episode.
Toodle pip.
Thank you very much. Thank you.